Bob, thank you for coming on Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance, the podcast.
Good to be here. Thanks
Yeah,
for having
well,
me.
thank you. So Bob and I became friends through mutual friends and also through our membership in the Entrepreneurs Organization, where so many of my friends come from. And he is in the Fort Worth chapter. I'm in the Dallas chapter, but you can go back and forth to events between chapters. So we've been sort of private get-togethers at houses and EO events together. And it's been a client of mine, and so we have a, a neat relationship. And Bob has an even neater story and success story about how he ended up being a successful entrepreneur, real estate, family man, involved with charity, yourself and with your wife. Um, so now that I've built you up to be the best guy ever, uh, let's start out with maybe how you first got into business, your first job. I've heard some of this, but I don't remember all the details, so I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Really, I've been an entrepreneur unbeknownst to me since I was a teenager. It really started out with soliciting all my neighbors to mow their yards. It was more than I could mow, so I'd hire my friends for a few dollars less a yard and make the cut. And my mom sat me down one day and said, that's not right. And I said, absolutely, it's right. It's like I landed the job and they agreed to do it for that price, so it's all good. And so that was the beginning. And then I was married 2 weeks out of high school with a child, and failure was not an option for me. And I got tired of swinging a hammer in the snow in Maryland and moved to Texas. Became a carpenter cabinet maker. Got fired from my cabinet making job for talking about starting our own business because our paychecks bounced every Friday. And we had to cash them at a pawn shop, and I thought that was BS. And I didn't have 2% to give to the pawn shop people, and talked to some of the guys about maybe starting our own cabinet shop. It was all just talk, really. We didn't really have the means or the know-how to do. And I got fired for that. And I called my dad, who lived in, mom and dad lived in Stuttgart, Germany at the time, and asked him if I could borrow $2,500 to start my cabinet shop. And it was enough for a few tools and 2 weeks worth of groceries. And he said yes. And we started my cabinet shop on my front porch. About a month in, I got kicked off my front porch for making too much noise and too much mess, and opened my first shop over off of West 7th, and which is now the Pop Cigar Shop, and over off of West 7th. And we got started. And long story short, we in 14 years grew that to 485,000 square feet of factory. About 260 employees, doing about 35 million in sales. Building all the Barnes & Noble, Bombay, Men's Warehouse store fixtures all over the United States. So that's where it all began, and just being a cabinet maker. Yeah.
And did you have a natural skill at craftsmanship and a love for making the cabinets?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was a craftsman, not a salesman, and I let my craft sell my product. But one thing we always did was we did what we said we were going to do when we said we were going to do it at a fair price. And even to this day, that works. I mean, you could build an empire off of that. Seems like a lost art. Shouldn't be, but it is. A lot of people don't seem to adhere to that, but in 14 years, we never missed a ship date of a store ever. And that was our reputation.
And was it primarily commercial, exclusively commercial?
Yeah, I stayed on the commercial end. I dabbled in residential a little bit, but really, the commercial people understood what, we were going to build, and there was no ambiguity of what and how and the quality. Uh, and then luckily we landed Bombay Company first, a big national company based out of Fort Worth, and that took us national. And we were building just local stores for them, and I shared with them that I could build these for them across the country and save them a lot of headache. And they shared with me that, well, Bob, we couldn't afford to ship a store of fixtures across the country. And I said, oh, yes, you can. Let me show you how. And showed them how they could do that and maintain quality, maintain on-time delivery, which is all the things they were dealing with. And so what was happening for them was their design was being bastardized because they had to give in on quality or timing, or because these stores had to be open. And so we were able to help them in a significant way with that. Not too long after that, they said, hey, Bob, can you do stockroom shelving? And we said, yeah, we can do stockroom shelving. And I had 2 guys building stockroom shelving 2 shifts a day for 10 years, just for Bombay. And then they said, can you do the doors and hardware? I said, yep, I can do the trim and molding too. And oh, by the way, we can build a storefront. And so what happened was we ended up building the store in our shop, packaging it and shipping it to a location, and the GC would put it together. And we took that concept to Men's Warehouse, Store of Knowledge, Hollywood Video, Blockbuster Video, and then eventually Barnes and Noble.
What sort of everybody I've talked to so far on the entrepreneur side has always talked about near misses or failures, being 37 days away from Mitchell Allen said at one point he was 37 days away from totally running out of money and going out of business. And
Yeah.
So I think that people maybe feel bad or underestimate the fact that successful people also have problems and downturns, and it wasn't all smooth sailing to the top.
No.
I know you have a story or two with regard to that
Yeah.
people might be interested in.
So when Bombay said they were going to build 300 stores the next year, we couldn't do it out of our 150,000 square foot warehouse in Mansfield. And we were in 5 buildings in the park. And you can imagine trying to manufacture something out of 5 different buildings. It was, when it rained, it really played havoc. We couldn't move product across the street. And so we purchased the 500,000 square foot factory. And moving into that and all that was involved in that was difficult. But more so than that, 30 days after we moved in and were set up and running, Bombay shut down construction. And so here I had this brand new factory that I'd leveraged everything. The bank was willing to lend me $3 million, and our biggest client just shut down construction. And so I didn't have EO back then. I didn't have 12 shoulders to cry on. I just closed my door, right? And fortunately for us, our national trade show was that next month, and I solicited Barnes and Noble. We had been soliciting them, but I told the director of purchasing what happened, and that I had a brand new factory with not enough work, and we would probably be bankrupt if we didn't if we didn't land enough work. And would they give me a chance? And they did. They gave me 2 stores. Unfortunately, they delivered the same week, so it was 7 tractor trailers per store. And we had parts that were in Houston and Austin, and parts that were in Austin and Houston, and it was a mess, right? We screwed up our first 2 stores. And I did what I always do. I wanted the owner to know from me first. I wanted to hear from me what happened, not from the general contractor or somebody else. And so I called and told him what happened. And, you could hold the phone out across the parking lot and hear me get a butt chewing. And I told Jane Shea that, and we dispatched 2 trucks, one to each location to switch parts, and hopefully she wouldn't miss a beat. Of course, I got another ass chewing. You damn right, we better not miss a beat. And 3 days later, I called her and said it's all done. And just so you know, we've left crews in both sites. You can have them load books, sweep parking lot, wash windows, but they're your crew until you open. And I apologize. And of course, I got another butt chewing, and then there was a pause. And Jane said to me, "But here's what I'm going to tell you, McCarthy. Nobody's ever responded. A manufacturer in my 40 years of purchasing has never responded like you did. I want you to walk over to your fax machine. There's 17 stores coming over the fax." And that was, we became their #1 manufacturer, doing almost 20 million a year with them. And the rest is history. And then right after that, I got bought by a Fortune 500.
Wow. Yeah, that is a story. And taking responsibility, doing what you can to fix it, being transparent, all good things to approach. And also the realization that if you do that, there's other people that had botched up the stores. But they
Everybody
didn't.
makes mistakes, right?
Yeah, right.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah. And
And what,
construction is complicated and hard. And
yep. And what we learned from that is, and I teach that to this day to my team, I coach this, to run towards the roar, right? Because the roar doesn't get quieter, it gets louder. And so own it. If it's your mistake, own it. And then share with the client how you're going to fix it. But own it. And that sets you apart because people don't own it anymore.
yeah.
It's rare.
Well, so that was then. And how long ago was then when you sold?
So we sold to Leggett and Platt in 1997. I took a few years off. I ended up becoming a single dad of 5 children, and spent a couple years raising them and giving them the time they needed. And then what happens is when you don't use your brain, it goes away. And so I decided I really need to go back to work. And so I became a general contractor. Didn't love it. And then we bought a high-end architectural millwork and door company in San Antonio in 2006. And he was a supplier of mine in the 90s for the Bombay contract. And he was going to close his shop. And I said, "No, you're not." He had some of the most talented craftsmen on the planet. And I married our 21st century manufacturing with old world benchmen, and went after some of the biggest projects in the United States. We did the Mandalay Bay Hotel Casino, Las Vegas, the Montage Hotel in Beverly Hills, Naomi Judd's home in Nashville, Tennessee, the owner of Pace Picani's home in San Antonio. A lot of really high-end, cool millwork. The Montage was a $13 million millwork project. We were at the time a $4 million a year company, and we had to deliver that in 9 months. So we had to triple in 9 months to produce that product. Delivered it on time. Made $5 million to the bottom line on that one project, and that we just took off from there. The founder, who I bought 50% of the company from, wanted it back after that. And so we ended up selling back to him.
How about that? So now are you, what are your business, or since then, what are your business activities? I know you're doing some general contracting.
Yeah, I've done real estate development, just a project at a time over the years. Right opportunity, right time, diving in. I really like real estate development. I never really did it full time because I had my manufacturing going on. But I've done well in real estate. Right time, right place kind of thing. And then I bought a concrete construction company in 2011, about 55% of a company that a buddy of mine was going to be bankrupt at 50, and didn't want to see him go through that. So I knew he was a hard worker. I bought 55% because they were upside down, and ended up having to remove him and his family for cause a year and a half in, and it was ugly. Probably one of the hardest businesses I've ever run. Never really made any money. Got out of it a couple years ago, and that didn't go well either. Getting out, it was one of those businesses that's really hard to get off the Ferris wheel without taking a huge hit. Thinking that you can be leaner, you can do more, but you really can't build a business on 12, 14% gross margins unless you're doing gigantic volume, and we just couldn't get the volume up quick enough to really make a difference. We'd have a handful of really great jobs, and then one or two would just take you down. And so it was that seesaw for 10 years. It was a beating. And finally got off of that and paid attention to this little uniform company that I had for 22 years. And golly, it's making more money than concrete ever made, and it's so much easier. And it follows the same philosophy as my store fixture business, that do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and deliver good product for the right price. And we've grown from $1.8 million in 3 years to $12 million in sales. And it's just a good business. And so, to do it again, I would have gotten off that concrete Ferris wheel sooner. I should have, because what happens is it sucks up all your oxygen to do anything else when you're not making money. So, yeah.
Well, and I know, maybe to wrap up, I know that firsthand that you and your wife are involved with a charity, I'll call it, I don't know, 501c3 in downtown Fort Worth, because we had an EO event there. And why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a really neat thing, among many neat things and kind things and godly things that you do.
Yeah. I mean, we're big believers in giving back, that all of what we've accomplished and is not ours, it's his. And our creators, and when you live life that it's not yours, you live life different, I think. And I learned a long time ago that can't outgive the good Lord, and it just comes back in spades. I mean, it's just it's amazing to watch how all that works. And so we've been involved in a number of 501c3s. Some we created ourselves, some we sit on the boards for. Our most recent was getting some friends together and getting enough money together to put a down payment on a 23-acre ranch in Aledo to address teenage mental health and suicide. As some of us know, that the number one cause of death between 11 and 21-year-olds is suicide in the United States. And we lost a neighbor of ours, lost his 12-year-old son to suicide. And we was like, we can't sit around just watching anymore. We got to do something. We got to try something. And so we created Branch to Hope Community Center in Aledo. My wife's involved on the board with Sonny James writing ministry, horseback riding for girls that have been abused. I sit on the board of Day Resource Solutions in Fort Worth, a homeless community program addressing those that can't help themselves. And so we do, we're pretty involved with all that. So
some of those are businesses too. They're just nonprofit businesses. So
that's right.
A lot of the skills and expertise and experience you have translates well. Like the place we went to, which gives free food, free meals to people, and that has to be run. You got to have a budget, got to have expenses, volunteers.
Yeah, and a lot of them you get on the board, and sometimes you're the lonely voice of reason that, guys, we can't help anybody if we're not in business, right?
Yeah.
and you've got to run it like a business. And so I bring that to the table. I take a lot of arrows sometimes, like at Christmas time. Well, we got to give everybody bonuses. Like, with what? Is the board going to put up 20 or 25,000 to fund that? Well, we've got 50,000 in the bank. Yeah, we got $110,000 payroll in 2 weeks. It is just that kind of conversation sometimes that, that not everybody understands the cash flow, and, getting these organizations to have a cash flow projection. It's eye-opening for them. So it's helpful. I think it's helpful.
I know it's helpful. I've seen it firsthand. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming over on the show.
Yeah.
And thank you for being a friend. And
Yeah.
I know I will talk to you and see you soon, maybe Thursday night.
All right. Sounds good, bud. Take care.